week 2 of the fantasy football season. And here's a few defense DST units I looked at off the wire this week. The first one, the Cleveland Browns. So the Browns, they just continue to haunt Joe Burrow in his NFL career. In week 1, what a ball game for this Brown DST. 3 points allowed, 2 sacks in that one. So right now, they got a great matchup in week 2 at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Obviously a division rival and an offense that had a tough time, obviously, in week 1 was Pittsburgh to move the football on that great 49er defense. So right now, available in 90% of fantasy leagues. We know this Brown defense has some players, obviously Denzel Ward, Myles Garrett, obviously headlining this defense. And now if Deontay Johnson's going to be out for the Steelers team, he left the game with a hamstring injury, I think that adds a little bit more for this Brown defense to make some plays. So right now, while they were out there in 90% of fantasy leagues, and it's a big Monday night game in week 2 here between these teams, I give the Browns an edge this week. The next DST is the Green Bay Packers. So the Packers, week 1, solid outing versus Justin Fields and the Chicago Bear offense. 20 points allowed, 4 sacks, an interception, a fumble recovery for a touchdown in that ball game. And right here, week 2, they got a good matchup on paper at the Atlanta Falcons. I know the Falcons have some weapons, but Desmond Ridder is possibly one of the worst starting quarterbacks in all the NFL. So I think this Packer defense could get pressure on Ridder. I think the secondary, led by J.A. Alexander, can make some plays. And the key for them is obviously stopping Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier. If they could stop the run game, is this Packer defense. I think they could tee you off on Ridder and make some plays in this ball game. And right now, with a good matchup and coming off a good week 1 performance, they're available in tons of leagues here, is this Packer DST in 68% of fantasy leagues. The next DST is the New York Giants. I know the Giants, they got the doors blown off in week 1 by the Dallas Cowboys, but I'm going off a matchup based add off the wire this week here for this Giant DST, where they're versing possibly the worst offense in pro football with the Arizona Cardinals in Arizona. So right now, won't be what elements obviously like they had to deal with at home at MetLife, and it's not going to be a high-powered offense like they dealt with the Dallas Cowboys as well. So right now, this is a good opportunity to go out there and get the Giants as a streaming option. Available right now, 93% of fantasy leagues. And to be honest, I don't think many owners are going to pay attention to the matchup after what happened in this Sunday night ball game. Like I said, if you need a streaming option next week, I think they're a great one versus Joshua Dobbs and that Arizona offense in Arizona. So right now, available 93% of fantasy leagues. The next DST is the Los Angeles Chargers. So another DST that is a streaming option here for me this week. I know this Charger defense doesn't do much. I know it's not the greatest of matchups in Tennessee, but we just saw the Titans offense definitely struggle in week 1, and Tannehill throw 3 interceptions. So I know Miami got up and down the field versus the Chargers in week 1. 36 points allowed to Miami, an interception and a fumble recovery. But I think here in week 2, this defense, they can make a few plays. They could get a few sacks on Ryan Tannehill. And as a streaming option in deeper leagues, I think they're a decent add off the wire. Available in 91% of fantasy leagues. And the 5th and final defense DST unit I looked at off the wire is the Indianapolis Colts. So the Colts, another team, a streaming option this week as well with the Houston Texans. So right now, week 1, they did play a good ball game though in that one in terms of fantasy points. I know they still gave up 31 points to the Jaguars with 2 sacks, an fumble recovery touchdown in that ball game. So a solid game it still was for the Colts. And the touchdown could save your day, obviously, from a DST. So right now, going into Houston with a young offense led by C.J. Stroud, Damian Pierce, and a couple veterans on the outside over there with Robert Woods and Dalton Schultz at the tight end position. I think this Colt defense could go there into Houston, division matchup, make a few plays. And last season, they were amongst one of the teams, amongst the league leaders in turnovers caused. So right now, this Colt team, I think, could make a few plays in this ball game. And as a streaming option, is a decent one, available 98% of fantasy leagues. So that's a few defense DST units I looked at off the wire here, week 2 of the fantasy football season.